Neighbours. Rebecca de Vries was a paragon, a woman of uncommon strength. To the great good fortune of Ephraim Howe, she consented to be his wife. He presented her on their wedding day with a rocking chair of choicest oak, the finest piece he had ever made. With Rebecca's devotion, Ephraim prospered, and their 7 children grew, obedient, dutiful, and strong. As midwife, she supervised birth throughout the valley. As comforter, she attended death. Life came and went in her care. Under Rebecca's eye, even the Bell Falls Ladies' League reached heights of usefulness never known before. Rebecca Howe, it could truly be said, was the very soul of Old Bell Falls. By sheer effort and will, she could do anything, it seemed, except bring back Nathaniel Meade. While the household on Howeside flourished, improving year by year, the empty house on Meadside, untended, fell into decay. From time to time a rumour would pass through town, suggesting an exotic fate, adventures, a fine education, a mystery woman, a son. But no sign, no word from Nathaniel himself. Nathaniel never returned. The Howe children were naturally curious about the mystery across the way. If they asked who owned the place, their mother said, "An old friend." Their father, however, said, "No one," and a shadow crossed his face. This, the children knew, put an end to it. There was nothing more to be learned. "There's a curse on the place," or "it's haunted," was what folks began to say, which put all Meads into question, whether they came near the place or not. Born into it, middle child and eldest son of Ephraim and Rebecca Howe, my grandfather Luther carried a burden he could never comprehend. Quick-tempered, wiry, nervous, he possessed no stillness of soul. Once insulted by a Meade in the schoolyard, who said Ephraim Howe had poached Meade land, Luther threw a punch. Luther was victor in the skirmish, but though he had been taunted into the fight, he was left with the blame. "Do not harm the weak, Luther," Ephraim scolded, receiving the teacher's report. "But he started it, father," Luther protested, holding back the tears. "You must turn your cheek to aggressors," was Rebecca's calm response. "He called us thieves, mother," at which Ephraim rose from his chair, filling Luther's sight. No Howe ever took anything he did not earn. Cowering beneath his father's strange, unexpected anger, Luther just missed being struck by the tin cup Ephraim flung against the chimney, its contents hissing upon the hearth. "When will it be finished?" wondered Rebecca, watching the poison spread to her son. The children grew. The girls married well, each remaining in town. The younger boys cheerfully matured. There was only Luther to worry over, the trouble in Rebecca's mind. The trouble increased immeasurably one dark winter day, when Ephraim Howe, strong, not yet 60 years old, met a far too untimely death. Alone at the mill, reaching to steady a beam, he lost his balance and fell. It was Luther who found his father, stone cold on the sawmill floor. Away in her kitchen, Rebecca heard his anguished cry from the bank of Abnack Pond. Her own grief deepened by Luther's inconsolable state, Rebecca entered the darkest period of her life. Struggling to manage a world without Ephraim, she was powerless to relieve her son of his pain. She could only watch and wait as he took to silently tramping the hills, absent from Howeside from days on end. He must leave Old Bell Falls, she concluded at last. Yes, Luther must go away, make a different life elsewhere. But one Monday morning in springtime, Luther suddenly returned, a lovely young woman at his side, Hannah Moore, from over in Cooper's Glen, who was to become his wife. With a soul sigh of relief, Rebecca moved to her daughters in town. Now Luther Howe took possession of his father's house, his land, his occupations, and mindlessly his distraction as well, tending a wall to keep nobody out. My father, William Christian Howe, was born on the first Christmas Eve of the new century in the house his grandfather Ephraim had built overlooking Abnack Pond. He was received into this world by hands most loving. His grandmother Rebecca was midwife. It was she who swaddled him, chose his name, and who placed her hopes upon him from the very moment of his birth. My father's childhood, he told me, was hard and good, as had been his father's before him. Even more, his heart was peaceful, for his father Luther carried the pain. That pain, tenacious grief for his own father's loss, incurable annoyance with any notion of mead, took startling form for Luther Howe in the spring of 1910, with the sudden, dramatic appearance of Hiram Mead. Watching him chug-chug down Main Street in his Haynes Duryea motor car, old Bell Falls took stock. Hiram Mead, tall, dark, and smirking under his waxed moustache, crowned in a straw boater, trussed up in black frock coat, white vest, striped silk trousers, in command at the steering wheel. On the seat beside him, dressed up in flounces and furs, a red-haired companion, lace collar up to her ears, picture hat perched upon flaming hair piled a foot high, the hat pin the size of a sword, the wife, Rosalind, a theatrical Nay O'Doul. And in the rumble seat behind, a charming little girl in green taffeta with satin rose-trimmed hat, called Victoria, for the good Protestant queen, no doubt, though she had been christened, it was said by father, whatchamacallit, of Saint something or other in Boston town. Right through Bell Falls they drove without a sidelight's glance, through town, round the knoll, past Birchwood Hill, along Church Lane to Old Trail Road, across the bridge below the falls, and on out to the ruin at Meadside, where dapper Hiram, it was learned, planned a modest country retreat in the quaint village of his father's youth. How do we know he is what he claims? Wondered Luther Howe aloud, strutting around here in his fancy boy's suit like he owns the place. Howdy, neighbour, was all the man said. Undeniably, observed the older folk, especially the Meads. This dandy was a dead-on ringer for Nathaniel Mead. Who else could he be but his son? Nathaniel's parents had passed long ago in grief for their only son, and if any other Meads have known of Nathaniel's offspring, they hadn't said so till now. Now, however, notions sprouted like weeds in a summer rain. Obviously old Hiram had prospered from his brownstone in Boston town. First, it was learned, in bottled milk, and then in the soft drink trade. Well, well, muttered Luther Howe, the Fizzle Water King. Not that Hiram Fizzle Mead took up residence in his run-down ancestral abode. It was sufficient to arrive betimes, unexpectedly, weary from the motor-car journey, and take the best rooms in town, whence he would drive out to Meadside to sniff about, making plans. From Howside they watched it all, Hiram posing, thumbs in vest, taking survey, Rosalind tripping about, skirts lifted to reveal patent leather, squealing a "charming" from time to time, and Victoria wandering alone. Will Howe was 10 years old when he first laid eyes on Victoria Mead, a city girl in satin roses, tossing pebbles into the pond. Of why she must remain a stranger he knew only this: it had to do with something in the past, about to be made worse. For by the end of summer the fancy architects appeared, with bowler hats and pocket watches and noses in the air. And then a battalion of workmen, armed with picks and shovels, came in from the Boston train. The Meads took in these strangers, even joined them in the work. By snowfall they had left an enormous excavation, a cavern at Meadside Farm, whereupon the Fizzlewater King retreated to Boston to spend his winter at ease. while the Howes commenced to reinforce the wall.